Hello and welcome back. TVGP's Critical Misses. I'm your host, Boston, and joining me as
Yep.
always is Moonpier,
Hello.
stretching with a brand new shirt over there.
Yep.
Yep. The tastiest dog food on the wasteland.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dinky D, which I
Dinky.
forgot to mention, means basically it's Australian slang for legitimate article.
Okay, great. I mean, if it's good enough for Max to eat, it's probably pretty good.
Uh-huh.
We're here with our fifth and final movie, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which we'll just be calling it Furiosa from here on out.
Yep.
Because that's a little bit clunky, but that's fine. You gotta market stuff. I appreciate it. Our last movie here, I'm going to assume it's a prequel? Question mark?
Maybe.
Question mark?
Maybe.
The only other stuff I know about it is it stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth. And that's about. I know George Miller directed this one as well. I would be surprised if there was anything Mad Max at this point that he wasn't directing. While he's still with us, I feel like that's very much his baby at this point.
Uh-huh.
So like, why would he have anybody else work on it? But that's kind of all I know. The only other thing I know is people seem to really like this, and it seemed to surprise people.
Yes, probably because it came out sooner than 20 years after the last one.
That's right. Was it 9 years after Fury Road?
I mean, this is what, 2024? That was
Mhm.
2015. Yeah, about 9 years. 9 years or so.
9 years of surprisingly legal disputes.
A lot of legal action.
Wouldn't you know it? Mad Max tied up in legal disputes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What should we know going into Furiosa?
You tell me, what are you expecting from this, having just taken the hard turn from Thunderdome to Fury Road?
God, Fury Road's so good. It's interesting because I like Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth a lot. It's gonna be fun to see Chris Hemsworth not doing a Marvel thing, because I feel like he's been trapped in that for a really long time. He's been really good in other stuff, but I feel like that's kind of
Yes.
the thing that that he's known for most people. Um, I'm gonna have to assume it's a prequel at this point. I don't think I have heard that of like Furiosa, a prequel to Fury Road, but that seems to be kind of the most natural thing I think coming off of Fury Road is telling the quote unquote origin story of Furiosa.
Here is my question, Boston.
Yeah,
Do you need to?
I mean, that wouldn't be my first thing of like I need to know more about this cool character. If it was anything else other than Mad Max, I'd probably say like, yeah, I could probably know some more backstory about this character. But the great part about Mad Max characters is like she's cool and you don't need to know anything else about her. She can get it done. Missing an
So
arm.
before I saw this movie, that was my main concern. I will not
Right.
tell you how that has changed based on seeing the
Sure.
movie itself. That was my main thing is why?
Right.
Why?
Why are we doing
Why
this?
do we need a Furiosa movie? We
Right.
don't. Like, she is an incredible character. She's an incredible performance by Charlize Theron. Why do we need to do this when you literally have a different script called Mad Max Wasteland
Right.
waiting to go?
Right. Like what? Why? what is? Why aren't we making that? Like,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, and like again, we've seen so many movies with Anya Taylor-Joy in Critical Misses that like I'd happily watch something with her in it. She's an incredible
Mhm.
actor, but yeah, the concern going into this is sort of like, yeah, I mean, okay, but sure, what are we doing here? So I'm happy to be proven wrong in watching this, but unlike Fury Road, I'm not like racing out to see this, especially since we're
And I'll be
so
honest, that was my approach to this too.
Yeah.
I did not see this day one. I did not care to see this in the theaters. I did go and see it in the theaters, mostly because I had the availability of one night to go and see it.
Right.
So I did. I'm interested to see what you think of this movie.
I mean, it's a tough act to follow. Like we spent 2 hours in the last episode talking about Mad Max, and we could have done a couple more hours after that. So like, how do you even try to top one of the best action movies of like all time?
Can you?
Yeah, exactly. Like, should
Like,
you even
genuinely? Can you?
should you even bother, or should you just make something completely different? Like, I'm
Like,
sure this is not
what
going
what are you gonna do with Wasteland? It's
right.
gonna top Fury Road.
Right, like I'm sure this isn't going to be like a tense political thriller. You know, it's still going to be a Mad Max movie, but I'm sort of going into it assuming it's not going to be a 2 hour. I don't know how long this movie is, but I'm assuming it's not going to be a 2 hour long chase scene across the wastelands this time. It'd be great if it was.
I mean, probably not.
Take more of that. Yeah. I am excited, though. Don't take my reticence here as concern over this movie. Take that as we have been recording for a very long time today. That's
2 hours and 28 minutes, by the way, Boston.
wow. Okay, all right. 30 minutes longer than Fury Road. So okay.
Is
Very
it
good.
needed?
I mean, I have a lot of is it needed questions going into this movie. It does make me feel better that Miller is directing, because I feel like if this wasn't if he wasn't involved in this, it'd be like, no, I'm not really interested in that's not for me. No thanks. We probably wouldn't be watching it for this season at all, because it's like, well, he didn't do it. It doesn't really count. You know, I feel like that is kind of a vote in favor of this movie. But
Yeah.
I'm also sort of assuming that Max won't be featured in this movie at all. Maybe they'll use some like leftover footage from Fury Road or something. But I'm gonna greatly assume this is gonna be focused on Furiosa first and foremost.
Yeah. And it's probably also worth mentioning, like, despite the fact that he is in all the Marvel movies, Hemsworth is Australian.
Yeah, true. Right. Unlike Tom Hardy.
Like, yes, unlike Tom Hardy, who is British.
Right.
He's very British, as it turns out.
Very, yes. Yeah, both great actors too. I've liked Chris Hemsworth in a lot of stuff. So, yeah. Do you have any kind of parting thoughts here before we check this thing out?
This is the movie I've seen least. This is the movie I've seen once.
Sure.
And I have a disc version of it somewhere around here. I might have 2 disc versions. That's how stupid I am when it comes to paying attention to what I buy.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious to go back into it. I know what my opinion was when I left the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it'll be like having rewatched it now.
Right. Alrighty. Now that we're both excited to go check out this movie, let's go watch the film.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're back.
Yes, we are.
Traversed the wasteland. Oh, Moon has a new shirt here. The Interceptor, the OG Interceptor, the colors.
Yeah. And it's a green shirt too. And it's my final shirt of the season, Boston.
That's true.
I figured I would do a loop around back to the OG season, episode 1 of this season.
Yeah, a prequel T-shirt for a prequel movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Furiosa.
So,
Uh-huh.
vibe check.
Oh, Moon, you don't want to ask this question.
Oh, I do. I do.
Vibes are
Do you
not
remember?
good, bro.
Do you remember in part one where I kept on saying, "Yo, is this really needed?"
Uh-huh.
Yo, I don't think this is really needed, dude.
I I get what they were going for. And
Mm-hmm.
I understand the kind of impulse to show the journey of a character that is beloved.
Mm-hmm.
But
But
for
we saw that
me,
journey. We saw the most important part of that journey, at least.
and like part of Furiosa for me is like I don't know if I care how she got here. She's just
Nope.
cool, man, and I don't need more than
Uh-huh.
that.
Mm-hmm.
She can just be cool.
Yep.
And this movie's really long.
Yep. 2.5 hours, the longest of the Mad Max movies.
And like part of this movie, I really struggle with this one. Part of this movie is really cool, and I think the biggest part of this movie is a filmmaker that understands how to shoot an actor that has the largest eyes in Hollywood.
Yes.
And just say like, "Hey, you're going to be at the top of a sand dune, or you're going to be in a truck or a car or something, scanning the horizon, and your giant white eyes are right underneath a bunch of oil and grease on your face."
Mm-hmm.
And that, man, does that look cool.
Yep.
And that's Furious. I I do have to say, it does have a very cool intro shot again with this like fast zoom into Australia, into the green place. Like,
Yes.
I think that's cool, in this like this little hint of kind of like solar punk sort of
Yep.
aesthetics and vibes there in the green place, of like, oh man, like, you, it's not just the Citadel that had figured it out. You
Yep.
guys figured out how to survive and almost thrive. Like, you
In
seem
a
like you're in a
different
good
way.
spot. Yes, exactly. And I think that is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like,
Yeah.
it looks cool. It looks great. I find it funny the fact that we've got Helena from Fast and Furious franchise
Yes.
as one of the Vuvolini, which is
Hmm.
hilarious to me because I didn't click that the first time I saw this
Yeah.
movie.
And man, she's cool, dude. Like,
Yeah,
she's just like, she I love the idea of nobody can find this place. Like, there needs to be no survivors. Whoever they are, it doesn't matter. Like, they don't even know, they might not even know about Immortan Joe. Whoever they are, they can't tell anybody about it.
yep,
And the brutal efficiency of like, yep, I'm on it, and just
yep.
hunting them down is so good.
And also continuing the Vuvolini tradition of one shot, one kill.
Oh man, she's so good.
They're
Like,
all really good.
yeah, they're all really cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we spend way too much time with young Furiosa.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
Like, there is a lot that happens in this movie that
Yeah,
involves a very young Furiosa. Not younger Furiosa, young Furiosa. There's a
right.
difference between the two.
Yes.
Um, she's a perfectly good actress. I think she does
Yeah.
a really solid performance in a movie where you don't need this much of her in it. You don't need this much of this entire beginning in it.
And like, so much of this beginning it's all fine. Like, the old dude that's the scribe that has the writing all over his skin.
The History Man, I
Thank
think
you.
you'll find is his name.
I can never remember that name. Um, that is like a walking dictionary. It's a cool idea,
Hmm.
used not effectively in like two or
Which
three
is
different ways.
that's what Miss Kitty was in Fury
Right,
Road. You just didn't learn that unless you read the comics,
right.
essentially. Um,
And like you get the kind of like gaggle of idiots that are under Dementus of
yeah,
like
so the whole start of this movie is just about Dementus, right? Like that's
right.
literally
Like it,
all the start of this movie is about.
young Furiosa doesn't really even have a part here other than she's in a
Sit there and
cage.
watch. And don't ever look away.
Right. And like that's all fine, but this whole first chapter of the movie really could have been considerably shorter, and I think that would have done better for the movie because I think to me one of the weaknesses of this movie, and reading reviews, it seems like I am in the vast minority here. A lot less Dementus would go a much longer way in this movie.
Yes.
I
I think his performance is great. I think he acts it really fantastically well.
mhm.
I think there's too much of him.
I also like I don't know what Hemsworth is going for here. Like it's Dementus seems smarter than he's playing the character. He seems less unhinged. He's kind of like in the middle of all of these kind of personalities that drives Dementus of like he seems to be as smart as a Morton Joe, but is acting unhinged, and he's not feral like a lot of the people in the wasteland are, but he's kind of pulled by his baser instincts often. But that's not really what drives him either. Like it seems there's this like blend of too many things there in a way that I found kind of uh odd in a way that I wasn't really drawn to. Like I'm drawn to so many of the villains in these
Mhm.
movies, and when Immortan Joe is back on screen, I was like, "Yep, that's him. He's back." Like technically, he's back.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the original actor sadly passed away, but like, you know, he's
Yes.
back, and here's this
They did a
big,
good job with his replacement. Like
yeah, yeah,
he was really good as a younger Joe, I should
hmm
say.
yeah, and like you get the People Eater is back, the Bullet Farmer is back, and kind of like he's in like a short scene more than anything else, but like those guys are back.
He
But
is a CG face in a short scene
yeah, which is
because that actor also passed away.
oh jeez, I didn't even realize that. Yikes. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
it's
get to it when we get to the end of the movie. Saw something I've never seen before, but
oh okay.
we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah.
Um, did, Boston, there
Mhm.
isn't even that much chasing in the opening.
Like
It's a bike and snipe system.
we have very cool bikes, and I really love the kind of bike upgrade at the beginning where the guy's like, I'm gonna take the wheel, I'm gonna take the fuel, no one's gonna be able to drive, and she's like, oh, look at this cool bike, and slap this thing on, put
Mhm.
that thing on, you know, get it together. You know, I thought you disabled the bike. I did. That sort of like
Yep. Apparently no.
yeah. But like so much of the beginning of this movie, I wanted it to get to the point faster of how did Furiosa get to be in possession of the war rig, and how was
Mhm.
she in a leadership position of the war boys and like the driver of the war rig. And it takes so long to get there, and we get some interesting stuff there. Like we get some stuff of the wives, we get the like the what's the doctor's name called, the like
Organic mechanic
thank
who
you,
was with Dementus at the start of this movie.
surgery like we get that kind of like his introduction, which is kind of neat. I like the like
Mhm.
the back and forth between the like, oh well, okay, I'll give you all you want, maybe I'll get a third of it, but I get these things as well. um I like that shot of the wife giving birth and a Morton Joe in the background, and he's like, "Is the baby okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, sort of," and holds up a baby that has like two bodies. So you just see the four legs. It's like, all right, that's a pretty good like Mad Max shot of just like, yeah, sort of,
Yeah.
but not really.
And like Dementus is riding a Mad Max vehicle. He has
Yes,
a chariot.
a 3 motorcycle chariot, which is I'm like, you know what? Number one, doesn't look like CG. Number two, that means you built that thing. That's incredibly cool.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And like the thing I love about the start of this movie, the one section I love is when he first arrives at the Citadel with the idiot war boy.
Yes,
Um
that war boy, man.
that poor war boy.
It's just you don't bring that one. He's the dumbest.
Yeah. But like he's got the arrow in the head. He isn't really speaking coherently.
Yep.
Like he'll say a sentence and then say it again correctly because the first time was not correct.
Yep.
And like he showed like Red Dementus at that point, which I like the fact that he
Yeah.
changes his name throughout.
I do like their fascination with the flares. What do they call them? Sky paint?
Skyblood.
Skyblood, yeah. I do love the fascination of just like, ooh. Oh, and then I love the one that just points it at the ground and fires and just poof. Like that's a really cool set of shots of them and Dementus just being like, oh, okay. This works for me. But
Yep. And then him arriving and threatening Joe at the Citadel. Just that you
and Joe's
don't know who you're about to mess with.
I love
Joe
that-
doesn't even speak.
No.
It's the people eater who's like, just pick one.
Yeah, pick one of these guys. He'll beat the crap out of you. Let's get on with
Which
our day.
one?
I'm busy.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Pick one to show you. Long story short, Furiosa's mom was tortured. We don't need to go into that.
Yeah.
Like he's just like pick one. And he's like, okay, the helper guy picks one, points one up, and then the guy steps forward. He's like, no, to the right.
I love that scene after he takes a very long time to scan the amount of war boys that are up there and be like, no, that one, and the moment of just like, no, to the right, and it's like, oh, okay, and just I also like at the beginning of that scene you get a little bit of world building too with the people that are in the tunnels underneath the
Wretched,
Citadel.
I believe is their name.
I think I like that a lot of just like these are kind of they're not war boys and they're not like one of Immortal Joe's kind of trusted people. They're living under the ground and it's bad
As best
down
as
there.
they can, and it's rough.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we'll get like a big fight scene with a bunch of war boys just
And it's an okay fight scene. It's not
Yeah.
even a great fight scene. It's just
No.
a lot of. It feels like a lot of chaos happening at once, and then
Yeah.
maybe that's supposed to be the whole point of it. Is it's a chaotic thing, but it's not like look at any of the other movies. Any of the other movies, it's crystal clear what is happening at all times.
right.
And this is just. It's a Donnybrook. It's a bar fight, like
Right.
in the middle of this thing, and the only thing you get away from it is Dementus leaving with Furiosa and like rallying the troops to go and steal the baby war rig. Which
Right.
the fact that that was the rig was just the first version is just
Yeah.
so stupid.
Yeah.
And then Octoboss realizes what psycho he's in with when Dementus storms the rig at the gas town.
I like that. I really like Octoboss. Number one, that big black kite of his looks incredibly cool.
Yes.
And I like the design. I like the kind of horns on the helmet. I like his face is covered by the kind of veil pretty consistently. And I really like him saying, like, this isn't the honorable thing to do. Like, we can get in there, but like,
Yeah. He
this
literally
is too
says
much.
you're scum.
Yeah, like he's like Dementus is too scummy for a den of thieves.
Yeah, because he shoots Octobus's own people
Right,
to reiterate the fact that it is a quote unquote real.
right. He's like Trojan horsing a war rig with fake
War
war
boys.
boys on the top of it. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, it's eh, eh. And this we get Dementus's consistent downward spiral, we'll
right.
say. When he does, this is when he does the negotiation with Joe. He shows up with the leader of Gastown, makes the deal. Joe keeps Furiosa and the organic mechanic.
Yep.
The introduction to the wives scene is just,
Ugh.
yep, great. I saw that safe opening and I knew exactly where she was going. And it's like,
Yep.
oh,
Yeah.
don't like that, not one bit.
Yeah. I I I wrote a note here that I think this movie is grosser than the others. And I'm not talking about like gore or anything, but I'm talking about kind of like the kicked puppy problem where like you don't have to show these guys doing bad things. You already know they're bad. Everybody in the wasteland is bad. Like Furiosa isn't a great person either, but you don't have to show them being worse to people, being worse to the wives. You already know they're bad. So
Yep.
like you
We
pull
do
pull
get the
back a little bit.
I forgot we do get the introduction of Joe's third son here, Scrotus,
Yes, Scrotus.
who is the protagonist from the video game. For
Right.
those of you who don't know, um, did you
Everybody's
do you know who plays him?
No, I don't.
It's Josh Hellman, who was young Colonel Stryker in the early X-Men movies.
Wow. Okay.
He was also Slit.
Okay. That's interesting. Well, I mean,
Oh,
it's a
he
Mad
goes
Max
from
movie. Someone has to come back as a different character in another
exactly.
movie.
Like he went from like face makeup on the bottom of his face to face makeup on the top of his face
Right.
instead.
Yeah. You got Scrotus, you
So,
got Piss Boy, you got everybody here.
yep.
God.
So I need to mention here.
Yeah.
I I think Nathan Jones is fine. He was fine as a professional wrestler. He was
Mhm.
fine in his acting roles. You probably don't know the name Nathan
I
Jones.
do
He's the
not.
one who plays Rictus.
Okay.
Um,
Professional big dude.
yes, he
Yeah.
was a wrestler for a little while. He didn't like the thing, so he went into acting. He's the dude who, have you seen Troy?
No. Mm-mm.
One of the best fight scenes in that movie takes place right at the start, and Nathan Jones is in it. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, okay.
Um, that would check out our historical season at some point in
Right.
10 years.
Right.
Um, he is a perfectly fine actor.
Yeah.
He had, if you're listening to this and you're a member of our community, I'm assuming you don't need to be told this because you have your hands relatively firmly on reality,
Hmm.
mostly. I don't I can't believe the amount of hate he got and accused of things for his performance in this.
Oh my God, we
So
have to stop doing that.
Rictus is fascinated with Furiosa, who is
Right.
a very young girl.
Right.
Nathan Jones had people coming after him for Rictus's actions.
We gotta stop doing this,
Do
society.
people not understand the difference
It's a
between media
movie.
and reality?
That's really, and he does an okay job
Uh-huh.
of this
And it's not
role.
the really funny thing to me watching it a second time, this is my second time.
Hmm.
It's not he doesn't perform it predatorily. Like he doesn't perform it like a
No.
predator. He performs it like a kid
Yeah.
who wants to play with the other kid.
It's like Lenny with the rabbits. He doesn't know he's big, and he doesn't know he keeps killing the rabbits, but he does.
I don't know. I don't know that reference, but okay.
Oh, never mind. Other Americans will know. It's one of the one of the novels you have to read in a high school of just
Okay.
Lenny's a really big dude. He loves rabbits. He's just too big and he keeps killing them
He
by
keeps squishing
accident.
them.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's just like he's just fascinated by another person,
Like
and
at no point did this come off as predatory to me.
Mm,
Like it didn't.
right. It
And
it, it
if you,
comes off as concerning of just like
yes,
I don't know what he's going to, it's not going to be good, but I don't know what he's
Mhm.
going to do.
yeah, it's 100% concerning.
Yeah.
But the things that he got thrown at him is just like, it's a movie. Like,
He's a paid actor. Like, I don't know.
please.
But I do like the scene, the kind of transition scene between when she hides out underneath that kind of walkway after her wig gets pulled off. I like that transition scene with the wig on the branch as
On
the
the plant on the
branch,
tree
yeah,
as it
as it kind
grows.
of grows and birds like that's more of what I kind of wanted from this movie of like, here's this fast intro, time has progressed, now she's a
Hmm.
teenager, she's a war boy, she's mute.
Well, she's a gate a lift raiser on the
Right.
big old stairmaster thing that they use.
Yep. That thing's still cool. It's just like, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
a big slab. People are riding it up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, so turns out she's a bugman or something like that because
Oh
she
yeah, it's
goes down
something
and
like that.
the crane.
Hmm.
Because they need someone little to go down and save it because everybody big keeps dying.
I I almost like this scene. The tension with the sound of the wind and how intense you know that wind has to be whipping across the desert and whipping around the citadel. You know that has to be really strong. I just kind of wish it was like a little bit, there's a little bit more something to that scene because if you're not going to have a chase across the desert, I need it to be a little bit something more, I think.
Yes. And I think this is where we get the first Anya Taylor-Joy, when she.
Yeah, cuz it's like it's her, I think it might be her CG'd face on a smaller person's body or like there's some camera trickery of her looking smaller than everybody else. But it's definitely like at this
Well,
point it's
she.
definitely her face.
Yeah. Well, she's also started like walking past Nathan Jones, who is 6'6".
That's
Like,
true. That's true. You don't need to do much there. Just like
he might actually be taller, if I'm completely honest.
right,
He's a big guy, so
right,
like, there's not a whole lot needed for that.
right.
Sorry, 6'11" is Nathan
Holy. Oh,
Jones.
you don't even need to put him in big shoes. You just put him right on the camera.
Nope.
Yeah.
Put him right next to everybody else, and everybody else is tiny in comparison to him.
Yep. Um. I
Yeah, she becomes someone who's a Black Thumb.
I like
She's
Black
helping
Thumb.
them build something. Yeah,
Right.
Black Thumb is great name for a mechanic, by the
Yeah.
way. Again, great lore
Yeah.
and use of
Great
language
names
in
for
these
stuff.
movies.
I kind of like this whole. There's a scene here where Rictus is trying to rally the troops to start building the war rig. And I
Yes.
really like this scene of him saying everybody like everybody's got to repeat what I say. Everybody, let's get pumped, everybody. And Furiosa doesn't, and he starts
Mhm.
hassling her, and the dude next to her just says like, "Hey, leave him alone. He's mute." I like that small moment of like she's so good at all of this stuff she's doing that they're sticking up for her in front of and like to Rictus, which
Yes.
they're
And
they're
Scrotus,
sticking.
who's also there.
True, yes, they're both there. Like they're putting their neck on the line for somebody that they don't really need to, which doesn't feel like a war boy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the thing is, like, these all don't feel like war boys. These all feel like the people
right,
who just work in the Citadel.
right.
Like, who are
Specialists.
having. Yeah, they have important skills. Like, the everyone's there who's like got like Black Thumb abilities,
Mhm.
construction abilities. You got the mad scientist who's like, there's 927 parts here, 2v8, so we're gonna build a big rig, baby.
I really love that scene of him just like listing off the numbers, and he's like, "We're gonna build it," and I was like, "Hell yeah, man, let's go!"
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And yeah, they build a rig.
yeah. I I really love that like Mark 1 of the War Rig is the shiniest thing you have seen in your life. And it's like
Gotta go to Valhalla, dude.
that's
Shiny and chrome.
that's true. But it's just like it's such a juxtaposition of what you see in Fury Road of like, no, I'm making this thing. If you were probably making it in real life, you'd probably make it sand colored. But like
Hmm.
it's a much darker and much more fierce looking thing. except for the thing on
Yes.
the back, which we'll get to. But like, I love that Mark One of it is just like, it's got to be shiny. It's got to look new.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, well,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
whatever. Mm.
Yeah. But
Yep.
that's a cool. I think that's a cool montage of all of it coming together and you getting introduced to Praetorian Jack, who's sort of like the
Yes.
driver for Immortan Joe, and him like starting the. There's him starting
He's
up
the
the.
Imperator prequel, essentially.
Right, right. I really like that shot of him climbing into the rig and closing the door. And as soon as he closes the door, you can see him through the rear view mirror, or the side mirror, and him starting up the war rig. That was a cool shot. I like that a lot.
And the rig sounds great too.
It sounds mean, like
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I so the thing that I don't like is they went too big with the rig in this. And maybe they learned their lesson. Maybe that's partially the point of this whole thing
Hmm.
is they learned their lesson from having a two trailer rig rather than a single trailer rig
Right.
with, cranes on the back and the boomy banger, the boomy mommy.
Bombing knocker, I think it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
that thing.
Yeah.
Which I think the lesson is learned when that gets caught up in Octobus's things.
Hmm.
But I do like the evolution that you see here. So, like, we get to our first big chase, we'll
Yes.
call it.
Yay.
And it's them going to, I think it's going to Gastown? No, it's
I
them going to the Bullet Farm, I think.
Right. Right. I think so.
And they run into the Mortifiers, which is Octobus's gang.
Hmm.
And
Great
it's
name.
it's a big chase. It's a
Yep.
nice big chase. They have their own special abilities, just like all the gangs seem to have in Mad Max, where
Mhm.
they ski on sand, and then
So
they
cool.
they pull up the parachutes, and then suddenly they're like water skiing, except it's on sand, so it's hilariously funny.
One of my favorite shots in this movie, hands down, was that moment where the first sail unfolds and he just lifts off of the sand, and
The camera pans up with them.
and it has that kind of camera move up and over the back of the war rig as you see more of them float up. Incredibly cool shot. I lot more CG in this movie than the
Yup.
previous ones, where I think some scenes I get it. There was there's a scene where Dementus's crew was trailing somebody back behind a vehicle after they fell off the vehicle. You probably don't want to have a person do that. Still looks like CG. Like, there's some CG stuff in here where, like, I will never fault using CG to keep humans safe, but like
Mhm.
there's some of it of like, but man, look at what you did in Fury Road. Like,
Yeah, literally,
that's
like
cool.
the problem is you're working with a director and a team
Hmm.
who have built their entire career on making these kind of movies and keeping people safe.
Right. And
You
doing
know,
incredible stunts.
with one exception, and the guy even said it was his own fault because he mistimed his jump.
Right. Right.
Like, go check out Mad Max 2 for the scariest
Right.
stunt bump that you ever did see.
Boy, yeah. Great shot.
But like, yeah, great shot. And they got his permission to use it. Even
True.
better. Fantastic. Thank you. But yeah, this is where like Furiosa is like hitchhiking underneath the truck.
Yeah.
And then the fight happens, and then Furiosa ends up having to become the Black Thumb / the TNT thrower / everything else.
One of my favorite moments in this movie that made me laugh out loud
Is it the witness me and then throws it over his head?
No, it's actually, it's such a smart move where one of the Octobos's guys puts a like a big bundle of TNT underneath the war rig and lights it, and essentially like kind of leaves but is
He
protecting
does
it.
that using like the drag race style bike, which I
Yes.
absolutely love that style of bike
That's
too.
really cool. But Furiosa is there underneath the war rig, so she sees it. She like clambers over there to grab it, and she's fighting like two guys from opposite sides. Manages to take care of them, and you see the bundle of stuff that she has sitting there, and you see off in the distance, like behind her, as the camera's pointing, the like low that kind of drag race motorcycle,
Hmm.
and I thought, oh well, she's just gonna pick up, she's gonna throw at them, no big deal. She just goes snip and cuts off the
It's the fuse.
cuts the
Yep.
fuse and just carries it. And I was like, man, that's really good. Just like
Hmm.
snip, let's go. Like that's
No wastage, man. Improvisation
It's-
is the key to survival.
like it's such a good Mad Max scene of like you. Any other action movie would just be like, yeah, take this. And she kicks it and it has this big explosion. She's like, no, I'm going to use it for a better thing. I'm not just going to kill these two dudes. I'm going to use it for something big. And that's
Because they get picked up by the claw that's on the back of the thing and then
that
dropped
claw
under
is
the
so
wheels.
cool, man. I like the claw is just like, I'm going to move them and I'm going to let them go and we're just going to crush them and keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah. So my biggest issue I have with this action, with this scene, it feels slow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, because if you go back to any of the Fury Road chases, or arguably any of the Beyond Thunderdome chases, or even the Road Warrior chases, everything feels frenetic.
Yeah.
It feels like you've dealt with one thing, the next thing is already happening,
Yeah.
next thing is already happening, next thing is already happening. This chase very much feels like here is one thing, take a breath, here is another thing, take a breath, here is another
Right.
thing, take a breath.
It's like a video game where you have like 7 ninjas around you and they all attack you one at a time and the other ones are just waiting there with their swords. It's like, no, like, come on, man. Like, you're trying to take the war rig. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's not slow. It feels slow
Yeah.
because while there was 9 years between Fury Road and this, we watched Fury Road a week ago.
Yeah.
So this movie's biggest downfall is we got to watch Fury Road a week ago. Like,
Yeah,
that's
and
the
Fury
problem
Road
with
is-
this movie.
So good.
But
And
like,
I also,
I like
one quick thing here. I think one of my biggest complaints of this movie, and I think part of it is colored by Fury Road, is I think the soundtrack is too overpowering in this. Like when you have these intense scenes like this and you know it's building to something, the like tension strings are screaming and screeching, and
yes.
it becomes a little bit too overpowering, where I think in other movies, especially in Fury Road, you let the amount of gunshots and amount of people, the roar of the engines really get you through and power those scenes. When you had a dude playing guitar on the back of a thing with like fire
The
shooting out of it,
Doofwagon, and that's Iota. Thank you very much.
you let him score that, and otherwise it's kind of like a quieter thing. And I think having a more maybe kind of traditional string
Less
based
diegetic in this.
yeah, 100%. And I don't think it's good for the movie because I want to hear that like
No.
17, especially with how big Dementus's gang is. I want to hear the 17 motorcycles that are around the war rig and the 200 that are behind them. Like that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, Furiosa gets a job with Praetorian Jack.
Mm-hmm.
We get the non-existent montage of him teaching her how to fight on the road,
Yeah.
how to do road war.
Yep.
Gastown Revolution happens, I guess, because to quote the Joker, Dementus is like a dog chasing cars.
Very
Once he
much
gets
so.
it, he doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah. He's running Gastown. But what
Into
do you do
the
now?
ground.
Yeah, like what do you do now that you can run it, man? I like that even he notices at the moment of like, if you want to get out of here, you need to get out of here now.
Leave now.
Like,
Yeah.
and if Dementus is telling you that, you better start booking, man, because it's about to get real bad. And I think you see that. I like the shots of them overturning the carts with the cabbage or the lettuce in it, of just like, I don't even care about this green food right now.
Yep.
There needs to be violence.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like a dog chasing cars, man.
that's right. Exactly.
Yeah, we get it's wartime, baby.
Yep. Dementus is like, hey man, we need to have a meeting 3 days from now. Everybody's got to
I'll be
show
late.
up. Get it together.
Yeah. And what happens 3 days from then? He goes and takes Bullet Farm instead
Right.
because he's like chasing cars.
I can
He
get
found
another
one
city.
and destroyed it, and then he get a second one,
Yep.
and then he destroys that one too. Because this is where Furiosa and Jack are they're basically gonna run away together at this point.
Yeah, because Jack
Using
sees her
the
like
star chart
yeah,
that
the
she's
like
tattooed on her
tattoo star
arm.
chart, which does look actually pretty cool.
Yeah, really good.
And I like that his whole thing is like, look, man, I don't really want to be here either. But if you're gonna run away, let me teach you how to do it, and then we're gonna do it together. Because if anyone's gonna be able to do it, it's us together as a team, with all of this milk, all of this water, all of these veggies. We can steal all of it. Who's gonna stop us? We drive the war rig.
Yep.
Let's do it.
They're gonna load. They end up loading up like a V8 vehicle with 2 bikes loaded with food
Yep.
and fuel.
Yep.
And I like the fact that Jack basically is taking the blame for this, where he's
Yeah.
like, "No, you're all doing this on my order."
Yeah.
So that if something goes south, Jack is the one who gets the blame and not Furiosa.
Right.
And yeah, so they go to Bullet Farm to get some bullets to start some war with Dementus. Yeah, Dementus is already there.
Yeah.
We know that because we get the dog with the prosthetic going her to Jack.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, big fight at Bullet Farm, which I don't like.
It should be bigger. You're at the place where bullets are. It should be this really big, massive shootout. If you're not going to have a giant race, which, again, we just watched Fury Road, which is a 2-hour-long race across the desert and back. If you're not going to do that, start shooting.
Where's the big explosion? Why isn't... They're so worried about Gastown blowing up. Like, why are they not worried about Bullet Farm becoming a hole in the ground?
There is that one scene where Scrotus does get a pretty good line off of, like, here are your 3 choices. I do like that he kind of lays out the 3 choices there of, like...
Yeah, he's like, it's the coward's choice, the idiot's choice, or the warrior's choice.
That's right. And I do like... You kind of see Immortan Joe figuring it out as he goes. Like, you can see even now he's clever enough to be like...
He has a soldier brain. Like, he has the brain of a soldier, where he's just... And I actually really like this, too, because, like, it's the big Bullet Farm fight, then Furiosa makes it back, everybody else is dead, essentially. Because, we should mention, the big fight at Bullet Farm, I do like the fact that Dementus is trapped up on by the stacks.
Yes.
And Furiosa is just picking everybody else off, and then he uses one of his own people to fire an RPG at her.
That's a heck of a shot. And, like, that shot of her realizing the RPG is flying at her with the big eyes, I was like, all right, that's a pretty good shot.
Yeah, but, like, they try and escape, then there's a big chase through the desert, which is a super CG chase.
Yeah. That one was kind of a bummer.
Where the car is going around the mountain, then Dementus rides the Bigfoot over the mountain, essentially. They catch up, there's a big fight. She's caught, then Jack is road rashed to death, we're assuming.
That's a rough scene.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
especially rough because Furiosa escapes by cutting off her badly wounded left arm.
Yeah, because, like, her arm gets caught
between the vehicle
car and like one of the big tires, which I thought, I was like, well, that's where her arm gets cut off, but the arm makes it back. But it's worth it for that shot of that one arm dangling,
Walking Dead shot,
like as the dust
the
kind of clears.
Sides.
Yeah, and like the arm is just dangling there. I was like, okay. That's a pretty good payoff for what you knew was coming the whole movie. That's a pretty good payoff.
Yeah, and that's where we end up with like the meeting about what they're gonna do. And it's stupid, but I really like this because it shows the 2 soldier brains of like Joe being like, no, we'll make him think we're going to Gastown.
Yeah.
We're actually gonna go to the Bullet Farm.
Right.
So he does that by sending out like 4 trucks with the plows behind it to create this huge
It's
sandstorm
really
effect.
clever.
And on the flip side of that, you've got Dementus who's driving through a ravine with a water truck in front of the vehicles, spraying the ground down so they
Yep.
don't kick up any dust.
Yep.
It's a really smart little thing, and he's like, "Yeah, such idiots, let's go." And thus begins the 40-day wasteland war.
I do really like that voiceover, though, leaning into the war of like, here are the great wars through humanity, the 3 world wars, these wars, and thus begins the 40-day wasteland war. And I was like, you know what, man? If you're going to intro a big fight to finish this
He does a
movie,
lot.
that's a cool way to do
It's
it.
like it's like the War of the Roses, the War of the Oranges, the first, second, third Great World War, I think it's like the tri-tribe nuclear war
Something
or
like that,
something
yeah.
like that is mentioned. It's just like, okay, so things went real south, is what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying.
Yep. Yeah, I
And then it's just whatever. It's a montage of a bunch of fighting in the dust until Furiosa creates her mechanical arm.
yeah, which looks pretty cool. I gotta
Yeah,
say.
and she uses like the wheelchair that the previous mechanic was using
Yeah,
that
right,
worked on the rig.
right.
To She basically uses that to make the arm. And then yeah, she needs a vehicle so she can go and find Dementus, and then she gets there and steals Crotus's car.
Right.
Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, you need a car. You're hunting down
Yep.
Dementus. Um, I do like when Dementus escapes, and he has that little tent he made around the his bike, where he discovers that Furiosa has found him and like taken care of his water, but left him alive.
Yeah, she cuts his water and takes the front wheel of his bike.
Right, and
All the
also
while he was asleep.
all
Empties
of
his
his
gun.
bullets. Like
Yep.
that's a really good one too, because he's just like, well, I'll take care of you. Click, click, click. It's like, mm-hmm.
We
Yep.
did miss the Max cameo of him dropping Furiosa off to the Wretched, by the
I
way.
I
But
did like that
whatever.
shot with Max off in the distance as she like walks those final couple steps and falls over, like way, way, way down in the distance. I
Mhm.
thought that was a really great shot.
Yeah. And then your body parts full of maggots underground. Yep,
Oh man,
sure.
just the
That's
grossest.
great.
Oof.
But yeah, Furiosa chases down Dementus, and we end up with the 1v1 where it's just a bunch of speechifying, which Dementus does a lot of speechifying in this movie. A
Yeah.
couple of them are actually solid, like
Mhm.
speechifies. This one is an interesting one, but it's like a 20-minute speechify back and forth, and it's like, guys,
I conceptually I like the idea of this because I think so much of Mad Max up until this point has been like brutal immediate justice of just you've done this thing to me, I've caught up to you, blat, we're done. And I like the fact that she toys with him a little bit. Like she really
mhm,
wants him to know that this is something she's deciding to do instead of letting her like him letting her instincts and kind of baser nature take over. But
yeah,
he keeps
and
flipping it on her of like, oh, you don't shoot me in the face because then I'm gonna know it's coming. I'm just gonna turn back around. So you just shoot me
oh,
in the back of the head.
the shooter should also shoot the shootee from behind,
That's
because
right. Like
then they don't know when the shot is coming,
right.
and it's small, but any small torture is a good thing because he
Hmm.
gives the already dead for like speech where it's like, look, we're the same. We lost everything. We're broken. We're already dead. So
Right.
we do these things to get any form of sensation.
Right.
Any form of sensation. But then you keep doing them until too much is not enough. And it's a very good humanization of his character where it's like, okay, now I get why you're broken, especially because you carried around this teddy bear for the whole movie.
Oof. Yeah. That's
And
rough.
it's an interesting backwards and forwards, and I like the fact that it doesn't show how she actually ended him.
Right. Like I
It,
like that you don't get the definitive answer of what
you
happened.
get, yeah, you get the history man saying maybe this happened. Maybe this happened.
Hmm.
Maybe this happened.
What Furiosa told
Furiosa
me,
said to
right,
me was this happened.
right.
And it's a terrible way to die slash live.
I, it's interesting though because like I like that it kind of continues the thing we've been talking about since the second movie, the folklore of Mad Max. Of now, Furiosa has her own folklore that she's been building up. Of like, yeah, she took down Dementus, but I heard this, and she told me that she saw this, and he saw this thing, and Furiosa told me that hidden deep in here, he's encased in a tree. And like you get the kind of poetic justice of the first fruit from that tree being given to the wives before they escape, and like
Yes. And
starting
it
the
looks like, and it's the same wives too. And it's
yeah,
like
starting
it's
Fury
the
Road,
wives.
right,
I think we do get the cut sequence from Fury Road here where you see Furiosa sneaking them into the rig
right.
right before it closes.
Yeah, and the last
Which
shot is like the hidden compartment closing, like that
yep.
compartment closing at the bottom of it, and
Uh-huh.
then like they sure made a choice with the credits of this movie of like, hey man, remember
Recapping
Fury
Fury
Road
Road.
and how cool
Yeah,
that movie
dude.
was? Here's the highlights
What a
of that.
mistake. What a mistake that
Because I
was.
was like, man, I want
Because
to watch Fury Road now.
I'm sorry, Fury Road is a better movie than this on every single aspect of it.
Hands down. And it's a real choice to be like, hey man, remember how cool that other movie was that you didn't just watch? Here's how cool that
Uh-huh.
stuff was. It's like, oh boy, okay, sure, man.
Yep. 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 Yep.
You
It's
mentioned you
not
saw
great.
something for the first time near the end of this movie.
Yes, specifically in the credits. I've never
Okay.
noticed this before, but like, because I watched all the way through because I was curious. And
Mm-hmm.
by the way, the very closing shot is the bouncing crow thing from Nux's
Mm.
car in the sandstorm. It's the
Mm-hmm.
bouncing crow plate or bobber thing.
Yep.
I noticed right near the end of the credits there was a section just titled Vale or Valet, Vale, Valet, I think is how it's
Mm.
pronounced, which is Latin for farewell. And it
Oh.
had 5 names in it.
Hmm.
It had Grant Page, who did a whole bunch of stunts. Like
Oh, okay.
he was the primary stunt driver for Mad Max, from the first one all the way through till Fury Road, I believe.
Oh wow.
And it's a list of the birth date and then death date, or death year. So
Oh wow.
it's a farewell credit for everybody who was super important to the movies,
Right.
but were never they're not title characters, you know?
Right. It's not like here's the dude who played Immortan Joe. It's like no, here's the stunt dude who's worked for me for 40 years.
Yeah, exactly. So it
That's
was like
great.
it was him. It had Hugh Keys Byrne in
Mm-hmm.
there too, who a lot of people wouldn't be able to put a name to that face.
Right.
Like a lot of people wouldn't know that that was Toe Cutter and Immortan Joe.
Right.
Like you just wouldn't. Um, it had. Hold on a second. Sorry, I lost my notes here. It had Richard Carter. He was the bullet farmer,
Right.
who passed away in 2020.
Okay.
Sorry, 20. Maybe 2019, because mine says 2029, and that's in the future, so I don't know. Grant Page was 2024. Hugh Kesby was 2020, and it had, and I, for some reason, my notes didn't sync correctly, but it had the other brother in there, Quentin Kennihan, who
Okay.
played Corpus Colossus, who died between
Right.
Fury Road and this movie.
Right.
2018, he passed away, but it just had their names and
That's great.
their years essentially, and I was like, okay, thank you for having a heartfelt little moment for people
Yeah.
who you as a director probably feel is very important,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe the rest of the world just don't know or care about them enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's great.
I
This movie is disappointing.
I really I really went into this hoping for the best, and I came out with a movie that I probably won't watch again. And
I have this now on 4K UHD.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that disc will go into a system again until I'm feeling like a Fast and the Furious summer, except it's a Mad Max summer.
Right.
Like, until I'm feeling that kind of vibe, the disc is not gonna.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna. It's not
It's
gonna spin again.
it's not a terrible movie. It's not
No,
unwatchable.
it's not.
It's
It
just
is.
fine.
Yeah, it is fine to good. I would argue.
Right.
The problem it has is it's after Fury Road,
It's after
which yes, 9 years in real life, but for
Right.
us, a week.
And it's after one of the best action movies of all time. And instead of telling the next thing of Furiosa, which might be more interesting, of like her finding her way in the wasteland, you tell a prequel story, which I don't care about. And turns out after this movie, still kind of don't care about. Anya Taylor-Joy, still great. Like, no
Yes.
no notes on that, but
Pretoria Jack,
really great.
fantastic.
Yep.
Tom Burke, and I love the fact that they incorporated his cleft lip into his character. Like
Yeah.
they increased the size of the facial scar
Yep.
and just used it as part of the thing.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's get to ratings here real quick before we say goodbye. IMDb 7.5 out of 10 with 275,000 ratings. Rotten Tomatoes 90% on the tomato meter with 419 reviews. 88% on the popcorn meter. 3.8 out of 5 on Letterboxd. That's way more generous than I'm giving this movie. I'm fully
Maybe
at,
7
like,
at most.
I'm at a 2.5 out of 5. I'm at a 5 out of 10. It's fine. I agree with you. If I'm feeling generous on a day, it's approaching good. I'm not. It's not great.
No, we literally. The funny thing is, we did this film a disservice, and arguably, this film did itself a disservice by
Right.
not needing to exist,
Right.
by telling a story nobody cared about,
Right.
because you don't need to know where Furiosa came from. Like you said, the better story for her is where is she going.
Exactly.
Like that's
She's
the
already
thing that-
cool. Like,
yeah, like you don't need to see that stuff, and it came after Fury Road, dude.
right. And like the tough part about Furiosa is if you watch it after Fury Road, it's a worse movie because Fury Road is incredible. If you watch it before Fury Road, I think you take some of the punch out of Furiosa
impact off.
in Fury
Yeah.
Road. So like you
Yep.
kind of can't win. So
Yep.
look, I love that we got another Miller movie. And it's got a lot of great Mad Max stuff in there, sort of peppered with some bad stuff. I just wish it would have been something else.
I mean, I am hoping he can return to form, Fury Road form specifically, for the next movie, which is Mad Max Wasteland.
Right.
Whether that ever gets made is a completely different question.
Right. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it took 9 years between this and the last one, and it took like 30 years between that one and the one before it. So,
I pray
mean-
that all of the legal problems have been resolved finally. Who knows?
yeah, probably not, based on
Probably
how
not.
Warner Brothers are going.
Yeah.
I,
Go watch Fury Road.
yeah,
It's an
if
incredible
you-
movie.
it's 30 minutes shorter,
Right.
and it's about 50% better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's arguably one of the best action movies ever made.
Right.
Ever made. Not like in this franchise.
No.
Ever made, period. Full stop. End of conversation.
It's so good. Anyways,
That's the end of the season.
that's the end of our season. I'm assuming you want to do some ranking.
Oh, I want to, and I know you want to too, because you're the sick
always
ranking
want
freak.
to.
Yes, exactly.
Starting at number 5. What's your number 5?
Are we going bottom upwards?
We'll go bottom to top.
Okay, bottom to top, Thunderdome.
Yes, I 100% agree. As much as Furiosa isn't that great, Thunderdome is two weird movies smushed together, and the back half of that movie is not great. So, number
Yep.
4,
Furiosa.
you got it. I think that's a pretty easy one. Number 3,
This is probably where we diverge. Road Warrior.
no, I'm with you. I think
Okay, at last I have someone who's like me.
I think 1 out of 10 days, I might be like, "Ah, Road Warrior is better than the first one." The
Mhm.
majority of the time, I like Mad Max 1 better than Road Warrior. There's something about it. It's the
Mhm.
aliens thing. Like you're gonna prefer one over the other. I think. I
Yes,
think I prefer the first one over the second one.
which means our number two is Mad Max One,
Yeah, and number
and
one
it means our number one is
has to
Fury
be
Road.
Fury Road. I like. There's just no number five and number
Mhm.
one for me were written in Sharpie. Um, but yeah,
I think you mean in Chrome. Thank you very
that's
much.
I gotta have the marketing here. Yeah. But yeah, I'm super happy. We eventually, just very quickly, very happy we finally got to these movies. I really enjoyed a lot of them. There's some great parts of Thunderdome, even though Thunderdome was, number 5 on our list. But I'm glad we finally got to watch these movies, and I had a blast watching
Yeah,
all 5 of these.
if you don't listen to the production meetings, part of the thing we started thinking about last year during the production meetings was each year we're gonna try and cover a season that we like,
Yeah, like our
essentially.
pet
Like,
pet season.
yeah, this is my pet season for this year. This is Boston's pet season for this year.
Right,
Just so we can knock something off the board that we actually really want to do, and also introduce the other person too.
right,
And like
exactly.
this was my choice for 2024.
Yeah,
But I'm so glad we started this year with it because, again, behind the scenes, we've doubled up on this one to get ourselves
yeah,
back in a semblance of having wiggle room for
right.
like
Trying to rebuild the
production wise.
backlog.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I, this was it was it was tough at times, but this was an easy like double up thing because
yeah,
it's like, oh, I get to watch Mad Max 2. I get to watch Mad Max Fury Road this week.
right.
Oh no,
Oh,
woe is me.
oh God, someone play the small violin for me. Like, it's a great
I
way to
will
start the
admit,
year off.
yeah, I will admit I did watch Furiosa this morning before recording
Hmm.
with Monster Hunter Wilds sitting there waiting for me to play it, and I've
Right,
got to watch Furiosa. I can't do it just
gotta
off the
put in the
one time I
time.
saw it in the theater.
Yep,
I have to sit down and watch it.
that's right. Yeah, so I'm super glad we finally got to watch these. Speaking of the production meeting, patreon.com/E1M1.
The ones and numbers.
The $5 tier or higher, you get exclusive access to the uncensored production meeting. It really is kind of a fly on the wall sort of thing. I really love these episodes. I think every one of them has turned out really great. I think the one between season 35 and 36 turned out really, really well. If you want to get a kind of sneak peek of what season 36 is going to be, you can go check that
Mm-hmm.
out and sort of see how the sausage is made in a way that I really like and I think is really interesting. So you can get that
Yes.
over there.
And
Thank you
that's
for
also where we get the Discord riled up, apparently.
That's true. Yes, that's true. Please, also, again, if you're listening to those, we have a plea at the end of that episode for some help on some seasons that we may be missing obvious movies for. Please help us out if
Yeah,
you can.
send us a message.
Yeah, that would we would really appreciate it. So, season 35 is over. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We'll see you for the next season. Bye.
Oi.